He decided to marry a wheelchair girl, but what happened at the wedding amazed everyone. Needless to say, for any girl, the moment when she walks down the aisle with her father and looks into the eyes of the groom waiting for her, it's probably the most emotional moment of her life because since that moment, a new chapter begins. That day was not just special, but the most unique in her life. It's worth noting that dozens of people were speechless when they saw this scene at the wedding. Jackie Gonchar is a 25-year-old young woman from Georgia. She has had a very difficult life. She's come a long way from an active, lifestyle-loving teenage girl to a wheelchair-bound young woman, the beautiful athlete, an activist who always rushed to meet the adventures and loved sports practicing in the swimming pool. Once again, she got a serious spinal injury and at the age of 17 became paralyzed from head to toe. Needless to say, that very day changed her life. But if there was any hope of recovery, the doctors put an end to it with a dreadful diagnosis that Jackie would never walk again and would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. The girl refused to believe what was happening to her, and for about half a year she was in a deep state of depression. She didn't want to talk to anyone or do anything. The days dragged on, and it seemed as if the sadness would never go away. But one day, one encounter changed everything. Jackie was in the park that day when suddenly a young man came up to her and asked her for a walk. The girl was a little taken aback by such a proposal, but soon agreed. And Andrew, that was the guy's name, fell in love with Jackie at first sight. After a year of romantic meetings, the man made her a proposal. And of course, Jackie said yes. It is worth saying that after meeting her husband, 35-year-old Andrew Gonchar, Jackie was fully determined not only to get up and walk down the aisle herself, but even to dance at her wedding. And this is even though doctors have assured us that this is simply impossible. The girl decided to act stubbornly, refusing to be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Of course, Jackie understood that she was going to have a hard road ahead of her, but she was ready for it. The girl worked hard and spent hours working at the gym, strengthening her central body muscles. Jackie had a great desire to reach the groom at the ceremony on her feet. So when that long-awaited and exciting day came, no one at the wedding could have imagined what would happen next when Jackie drove into the hall with her mother and grandfather. No one among the guests was surprised. But when the wheelchair stopped halfway down the aisle and the girl began to stand on her own feet, everyone was stunned. In just a second, the hall became very quiet. Everyone was watching with their mouths open. The next moment, Jackie was able to leave the wheelchair and walk slowly toward her fiancé. No one knew that the girl was preparing such a surprise, not even Andrew. When the groom saw what was happening, he could not hold back his tears and cry. At the wedding, not only the groom, but all the guests cried. So it was a touching moment. Jackie could stand on her feet for the whole 45 minutes of the ceremony. And after that, she even danced the dance of the newlyweds. But the girl didn't stop there either and spent most of the 5-hour event on her feet. None of the guests could believe what was going on. Jackie was incredible. It took her several years of hard training to stand on her own 2 feet, but all this she did not only for herself, but also for the one she loved. The girl says that if it wasn't for Andrew, it wouldn't have happened because he was her biggest motivation when on one of the most unremarkable days he came up to the girl in a wheelchair and thus changed her whole life. It just so happened that the young woman proved to everyone on the happiest day of her life that you should never give up. Jackie plans to continue training and hopes to fully return to normal life. And undoubtedly, this girl deserves a lot of respect for her willpower and her personality. Friends, write in the comments if you like the story of the girl and her wedding. That's all for today.